Hi, it's Kifin Lobates here, and today I want to talk about the European Central Bank's plans for a central bank digital currency, which is a project that has now been going on for multiple years, and a fair amount of money has been burnt in researching it, conducting surveys and things like that, and the pace has now accelerated to the point that Christine Lagarde has announced that the first launch will happen sometime in the autumn of 2025, pending the legislation for the currency being approved by the European Parliament and the European Commission, or maybe only the European Commission. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I thought it would be interesting to look at what it is about this project that I personally find rather alarming. And it boils down to one thing. It's the things that the ECB isn't saying as much as the things that they are saying, and in particularly the way that the narrative presented by the European Central Bank has changed. To me, it seems fairly clear that the ECB has made the decision that this digital euro is an absolute necessity, and now it's a question of finding out how to present that to the European residents and citizens en masse in a way that makes it palatable. And there are two particular things that I want to talk about, namely surveillance and control, because the stories that have been trotted out by the ECB to justify the digital euro have changed over the last 3 or 4 years. They don't seem to be able to stick to a single story, and I think there's a reason for that, namely that the underlying story does not look particularly good to the average person in the street. So first, let's look at privacy and surveillance. At the moment, we have physical cash. It has a whole bunch of useful properties, one of which is privacy. I can transact in cash with you, and the government doesn't get to survey what we're doing. They can't censor the transactions. Now, this of course does have a downside. It makes cash a desirable medium of exchange for criminal activity, but it also has a plus side for ordinary citizens, which is we can go about our business, leading our lives, using cash in the way that money was initially designed for, namely for two private individuals to be able to transact and bargain with each other without having to use a bartering system. And to replace that with the digital euro would mean that all transactions would become like banking transactions. The data would be there for anybody in a position of authority to see it. And a lot of us find that kind of undesirable. At the moment, we're in a state of relative peace for Europe. I know that there are problems off in the east, in the Ukraine, but generally speaking, we've had a long period of, relatively speaking, fairly benevolent governments and a peaceful existence. However, as history shows us, this is not guaranteed. And one of the problems you have in the world is that although things may be going fine for you now, there is no guarantee that at some point in the future you won't, for some reason, end up on some list of undesirables who have to be censored or even removed. And this can happen to anybody. You don't just have to be an intellectual or Jewish or some kind of minority in the country to find yourself at the wrong end of the persecution stick. So what problem does the digital euro introduce there? Well, you can end up with a situation where governments can effectively not just unbank you, but uncurrency you. Imagine trying to live in a country where you do not have the means to spend money. How are you going to do anything? Money is the way that we get through life in this day and age. You certainly can't go back to some kind of medieval system where you are like a traveling tinker moving around various parts of the country doing odd jobs for food and accommodation. I don't think that sounds particularly appealing to most people. And we are given assurances by the ECB that this kind of surveillance and censorship won't happen. They've stopped doing it now, but a year or two ago, the Digital Euro project regularly trotted out young, attractive interns at the ECB to tell us in rather cute, to be honest, foreign accents, well, foreign to me, not to them, of course, about how we need not worry. They would tell us that concerning privacy, there's nothing to worry about because the EU has very strong privacy laws, and those privacy laws will apply to our digital euro transactions. They always added a caveat on the end, though, namely that, of course, anti-money laundering rules will still need to apply. And there's the rub. Those laws are very, very strict, and they give the financial authorities and governments an awful lot of power to step in and brush aside the other laws that protect us. The prevention of criminal activity and terrorism, after all, trumps all other freedoms, according to the way that the laws are interpreted. And so, from my perspective, it doesn't matter whether or not they say we have all these European laws to protect your privacy, if at the drop of a hat they can cast them aside on the accusation that what you're doing may be criminal activity or may be funding terrorists. If that can be applied to any transaction, then all transactions become censorable. So that's the first problem I have. The second is to do with control. And again, you can find videos online where the same interns talk about the fact that this control will not be put in place. We've also had various high-level spokespeople for the ECB and the European Union telling us not to worry about that either. Recently, there was a little bit of a slip where they talked about how you will be able to have programmable payments, that one of the great things about the digital euro will be its convenience. And one of those conveniences is conditional payments or repeat payments. And it was pointed out that that looks an awful lot like programmable money. And here they say, oh, no, there is a big distinction between programmable payments, such as we are talking about the digital euro having, and programmable money. The reason why programmable money is undesirable is because that allows the authorities to issue cash that can spontaneously disappear, have an expiry date. You can have cash that is geolocated, i.e. cannot be spent outside a certain region. You can have cash that has different purchasing power depending on what it is you try to buy with it, when the government decides that certain products are undesirable and other products are desirable, so that the cost of things that they disapprove of will rise in comparison to the cost of things that they approve of. This, of course, does not happen with normal cash. And there is a fine line between programmable payments and programmable money. When you are looking at a digital currency like the digital euro, the lines between those two blur. So there is no guarantee, if you start off with digital money that is only programmable in a payment sense, that it can't be converted later into digital money that is programmable money. And again, one of the things that alarms me about the ECB and the digital euro project is the way this kind of thing has been glossed over. So in recap, my main issues with the digital euro are about the way that it is being presented to the public, which to me has aspects of propaganda to it. They're clearly trying to position it in a certain space to make it acceptable to the public, and glossing over the negatives and undesirables, or telling us flat out there's no need to be concerned about this will not happen, without explaining to us why that will not happen. And the assurances that are currently being given, I think, are falling far short from the requirements that they should be held to. Anyway, I'll wrap this up because we're getting to 10 minutes and that's a bit long for this topic, but there you have it. These are my concerns with the digital euro, and my concerns continue to grow over the years because I don't see anything changing. If anything, they are bedding down more and more into the existing arguments, none of which at the moment are satisfactory to people who actually look at this and have some kind of knowledge of the history of Europe. I'll wrap it up now. Hope you found that interesting, and I'll see you in the next video soon, which hopefully won't be so gloomy as this one. Bye for now.